When I consider how my light is spent ere half my days in this dark world and wide, and that one talent which is death to hide, lodged with me useless, though my soul more bent to serve therewith my Maker and present my true account, lest he returning chide. Doth God exact day labour, light denied? I fondly ask, but patience, to prevent that murmur, soon replies God doth not need either man's work or his own gifts, who best bear his mild yoke, they serve him best. His state is kingly, thousands at his bidding speed and post our land and ocean without rest. They also serve who only stand and wait.
John Milton, when I consider how my light is spent.
And when he had taken the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, he looked up to heaven, and blessed, and brake the loaves, and gave them to his disciples to set before them. And the 2 fishes divided he among them all. And they did all eat, and were filled. Mark chapter 6, verses 41 and 42. And he went up unto them into the ship, and the wind ceased. And they were sore amazed in themselves beyond measure, and wondered. For they considered not the miracle of the loaves, for their heart was hardened. Mark chapter 6, verse 52 and 53.
Tonight, we have no time. I am so crunched for time tonight. I do want to take time to say thank you. Last week was my birthday, and if you were watching on Facebook, it has a way of kind of letting the cat out of the bag, and there must have been 400 of you wishing happy birthday and you belated birthday throughout the week. And there's a couple funny comments. Answer the question, 47. That is, I know I don't look a day over 50, but hard miles. John Milton is considered one of the greatest poets of all time. But this poem, most often called When I Consider How My Light Is Spent. There's a meaning there that it's not going to jump off the page at you. It's one of those, which is my favorite. It requires something of the reader. And what I'd like to do is go through the poem as quickly as I can. And I hope I do a adequate job in portraying to you what I've gotten out of this poem this week and this biblical account of the feeding of the 5,000. John Milton, halfway through his life, completely lost his sight. So let's start with that first line. It seems like it should read, when I consider how my life is spent. But John Milton says, when I consider how my light is spent. But it's the first real 3 words, when I consider. It's not once I considered, or if I was to consider. It is when I do it, meaning this is something that is worth pondering, it is worth considering, and it is something that I have done more than once, likely often. When I consider this subject, meaning this is something I return to and turn over in my mind and constantly look at. When I consider how my light is spent. And what a beautiful term for a man who has lost the ability to bring in light. And there's this kind of double entendre there. It's like a man is born with a certain amount of light or talent that he gives out. And have I spent that now that I've lost my sight? Have I spent this ability to look on the world and put in verse and prose of a poet? And this was his talent. This was his calling. When I consider how my light is spent, have I lost it all? And then also maybe there's only so much amount of light a man can bring in his life, the other direction. That through our eyes and observation, we are only afforded so many years on the earth. And when I consider how my light is spent, what have I done with my ability to take in this beautiful creation? He says, ere half my days in this dark world and wide. And he's alluding to this turning point in his life. It gives you this feeling of smallness, of some fear, and another half of my life in a dark and wide world. And that one talent, which is death to hide. And this is obviously an allusion, the parable in the Bible of the talents. And he's saying that he is the man with that one talent. There's this one thing that I can do, and that is to write and observe and take in light and put it into verse. And that one talent which I had, which is death to hide. But what am I without this? And he's going to talk about the master coming back. And he says, that one talent lodged with me useless. The one thing I had entrusted to me, this gift of God. He says, though my soul be more bent to serve my maker and present my true account, even though I've lost it, my soul wants to serve even more because of this. In spite of this, in light of this, my soul is more bent. It's more inclined. It's striving further to this idea to serve my maker and present my true account, who I really am. But you can see there's about to be a turn in the poem. You always look for a turn. And that's where most often a poet halfway through, you look for the words but and yet, and then it's going to come, the real message is going to come. But before the turn, this account, they use true account. There is an element of pride in this word. My true account, how great I am, to show my maker how good and great my talent is. And he says, lest he returning chide, and back to the parable coming back, you've done nothing with this talent. You've hid it. He says, my true account, my greatness, it will not be on display. And then he says this question, doth God exact day labor, light denied? I fondly ask. In the 1600s, fondly does not mean what it means in 2020. Fondly in 2025 means, with some adoration or love or an inclination towards a good feeling. But fondly in 1600, it meant foolishly. He says, I foolishly ask. I'm about to foolishly ask. There's a bitterness here. Are you going to judge me, God, by this talent you gave me and seemingly ripped away? Will you exact this day labor to be done in the light of the sun? Yet you've denied me just that. Light denied. I fondly ask. I foolishly ask. And then he embodies patience itself as a person. He says, but patience to prevent that murmur. And murmur is an allusion to the Israelites in the Bible. What a word. Murmur. We don't use it a lot anymore, but it certainly has the exact connotation that I think the author was trying to make us feel. That quiet in a corner, disagreeable, hurt, angry feeling, murmuring. But patience to prevent that murmur soon replies. We just went through the turn there. So he was getting ready to ask this question to God. Does God exact day labor, light denied? I'm foolishly about to ask. And then here's the turn. But patience to prevent that murmur soon replies. And I love this. God does not need either man's works or his own gifts. Oh, the turn, the humbling. And the word at the end there is patience is telling him these are gifts, meaning that the thing that you're concerned about didn't even come from you. This great talent that you feel like the world is going to be robbed of didn't even come from you. It is merely a gift, and it is a gift that God does not need. He says, who best bear his mild yoke. The best thing that you can do is bear this mild yoke of being the servant of God. They serve him best. The best thing you can do is bear his mild yoke, this easy weight of serving the master, who is the giver of good gifts, but is in need of none. They serve him best. And it just gets better and better. His state is kingly, speaking of the master. Thousands at his bidding speed. He's speaking of angels. He has thousands at his bidding. And speed over land and ocean without rest. This is the speed of light. He has the servants around him at the speed of light can go. They are not limited as man is limited, and they can do without rest. And he doesn't need them either. But then probably the best line in the poem is what Patience says to John in his state of concern, that he will not be able to be vaulted among men, that he will not be recognized, that this great talent of his will not be able to be put on display. This inner light will not shine out to the world. It says, they also serve who only stand and wait. And there are places in this kingdom, and many, many, many places, that the least important thing is to be recognized. The time is going to kill me. Now, I want to put this into the perspective of the disciples at the feeding of the 5,000. I think most often when this miracle is referred to, it is certainly about the provision of God with the bread and the fish. But there's a few words in here that we'll try to go through quickly that I want to point out to you, that it gives you a little insight on where the disciples end up at the end of this day. Okay, so we come in kind of half through this day. John the Baptist had just been beheaded. The disciples had heard about, they had been out on a missionary journey. They'd heard about John being beheaded. They went and got the body and they had buried him. They're tired and they're hungry and they're heartbroken. And they come to Jesus and they tell him all the things that had happened. And he said unto them, come ye yourselves apart into a desert place and rest a while. The disciples were exhausted and heartbroken, and they come to the master, and he realizes this in them. He says, come away into a desert place. And the first thing they have to do is row a boat. Already exhausted, and they begin to row. But the people see, and the people want to be a part of this, and they follow along the shores. And eventually, by the time they get where they're going, more exhausted, more hungry, there's 5,000 people there. And Jesus sees them. He sees that they're sheep without a shepherd. And he has compassion, as our Lord so often and always does, on these people. And he begins to teach them. And the disciples, may probably feel a little put off to the side here. They were just promised some me time, some alone time with God, some recognition. But there was all these other people, and he seemed to put them in front of them. And then a problem arises. They said, these people are very hungry like us. Send them away so that they can get food. What Jesus knows, the teaching is more important than the provision. He says, you give them. And he goes, what? And they say, you can see they're getting a little agitated even. Just this situation is not going the way. We were promised something. We were supposed to be alone with you and resting. And now you're telling us to feed 5,000 people. Are we supposed to go and buy all this food with money we don't have? He says, go and ask what they have. Now, as a disciple, and I'm putting myself in this situation, I'm thinking, oh no, I've got to go around with my brothers that are just as tired and ask 5,000 people, what do you got? Hey, what do you got? Empty your pockets. And you think in 5,000 people, you're not going to encounter some kind of gruff spirits, some interesting personalities, to say the least. The job done, they come back, and they have 5 loaves and 2 fishes. The roller coaster of emotions for these men is that this is all we have. This is a problem. And God break it. And they witness a miracle, but you'll see later it's not really setting in what is happening. And then he says, go put them in groups of 50 and 100. And have you ever tried to put people in groups, and then they got to be squares. It says put them in squares, when you get like, hey, you're out of line, move over there. And I imagine that the disciples at this point are at their wits' end, just with people, with fatigue, with the situation, with the disappointment of how did I get here? We were supposed to be this great revolutionary force, and here I am, a servant. I'm going to get to where you're at. But they push through and they do it. And the miracle happens and the people eat. And then Jesus says, now go pick up all the pieces. Well, this is what I signed up for. I see him doing all these wonderful, amazing teachings and healings, and I'm picking up scraps. I'm exhausted. Job done. They keep pushing forward. This small group of surrounded by 5,000, there's this small group of chosen men that serve, unhighlighted, unexalted, unrecognized. They work in a row. Okay. Yes, Master. Yes, Master. Jesus dismissed the people. He goes off into a mountain. And it says he sees the disciples on the water struggling. Now that they had to fill up, we did all this and he didn't even go with us. He's gone. There's a storm. We're exhausted. We're forsaken. We're rowing with what little energy we have left. How did we get here? This is not what I expected. And then they see God. They see something so undeniable that it made the loaves and the fishes, dwindle in them. Everything up until this point faded in comparison to this moment. There's no talking. Jesus is in the boat now, and they are awestruck. There's no talking. They're sitting there, and their heart. Could you imagine? You've just seen this from the lowest of lows. All of a sudden, you've had this experience with God, undeniably God, all the doubt, all washed away in this moment. And they were amazed because they didn't consider the miracle of the loaves because their hearts were hardened. And their hearts were hardened because of their situation. They were in their feelings. They were not being recognized. They were just merely servants. They were picking up food and handing food and organizing people, thinking to themselves, what did I get myself into? And then this event happens, and there are no words in these men's lives to say, what did I just experience? This is God in the boat with me. God does not need either man's works or his own gifts. They also serve who only stand and wait. I want to tell you today, there will be a reward. But the reward is not going to be our talents, our ability, our name in lights. You're not always going to be recognized. There are going to be moments in the service of God, you will be just that, a servant. But the reward is in the relationship. To get on that boat, for those men to get on that boat, it took all day's work and service and a humbling of the spirit, and to put their head down. And the master has asked it, so I will do it. Though my body wars against me, though my spirit wars against me, my attitude needs to get in check. But to get the ticket to be on that boat, it took being a servant to 5,000 people. But what a ticket. What a moment. And this is exemplified in my life, and I think your life, and many of your lives that strive to serve and know God. Most of the time, it is work. It is things that people will not know about, things done in a closet. But the reward is the relationship, those private moments with God where I am in the boat with him. I want to make this point. The miracle of the loaves and fishes. These men worked all day. They were servants. And at the end, there was a miracle. It was the multiplying of loaves and fishes. But, if you were of a worldly mind, which many of us are many of the time, you would do the math. I can work hard in the world and get loaves and fishes. I can go to my job and put in time and be rewarded with sustenance and money and recognition. The world can provide loaves and fishes, and maybe easier than have to deal with these 5,000 people. Yes, we got it, but their hearts were hardened. Is this what I signed up for, loaves and fishes? And if you have ever received in a church setting recognition and maybe a spotlight, you'll find really quickly it's pretty hollow. And if anything, it's a letdown. It's like this does not sustain. The world can provide that. The world can provide spotlights. The world can provide recognition and names and lights and great titles and compliments that we could, revel in. The world can do that. Loaves and fishes. But the door of their servanthood that was opened, the world has no key. To be on that boat in that moment, to see God without question. He's coming towards you with you in mind because he knows you. There's a relationship there, and the reward is just that, a relationship. To know him and to be known. Oh, to serve in his kingdom. Oh, I would rather be a doorkeeper than a king, just to be at your feet. There is no greater reward. Our Lord's eyes looking at you with that shine of a friend. Oh God, I wish that for you. I wish that for me. I think there is no greater reward in life, even if it's just for moments in between storms. That moment. Love you. I'll see you in 7 days. Bring it on Monday.